What really makes a man top tier or high value? Is it money, status, or something deeper? We're going to talk about it on today's episode. Stay tuned.
Welcome to the secret formula of femininity for women who want to live a more feminine, fun, and fabulous life. I'm Dr. Nicole Montero, your host on this weekly journey to unlocking your inner radiance, nurturing fulfilling relationships, and becoming the best version of yourself.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Dr. Nicole, your guide on this journey to tapping into your feminine essence. And we talk about all kind of topics on this podcast, but we also like to discuss what's buzzing in the social media streets, as they say. And this is a topic that has had traction off and on in terms of high value men, top tier men. It comes around often in different names and different forms: alpha man, top tier man, high value man. And the debate is usually around who deserves such a man. So nowadays it's talking about what kind of woman you need to be to get a top tier man or high value man who is automatically disqualified. But I feel like, and we'll get to that, but so much of what's missing is really defining what makes a man high value. And I think a lot of people automatically assume that they know, and they assume that it has to do with money and status. What do they say? It's a six pack, six figures, and 6 feet tall, right? So a lot of women are looking for what they believe in their minds to be a top tier man or the top percentage of men. And a lot of it has to do with appearances and what they perceive as status and looks, and money. But there's a lot that goes into what a real high value man is. So you know me, I love to flip the script and really turn certain definitions on their head, or make sure that we're looking at all angles of them. So I want to tell you first a story. It's always story time. So I had a good friend, actually, and I'm just going to say good friend. I'm not going to give her a name. Um, and we used to always she knew that I was somebody she could bounce ideas off around, that I would just like listen to her, not really try to sway her one way or the other. And she really needed that as she was out there, in these dating streets, as they say. And she had met this guy. He seemed perfect on paper. Now, mind you, she was a hiring manager, at a corporation. So she knew that whole thing where somebody could look a certain way according to their credentials or whatever, but then when you get them in for the interview or do the background check or whatever, something just doesn't check out. So anyway, she met this man. He seemed perfect on paper. She was excited. He was successful by like just all objective measures. He drove a luxury car. He had what seemed like an impressive circle of friends. So he wasn't just the only one in his friend group, right? He was amongst peers as far as that level of outside success. But as time went on, she started to notice some things. And it wasn't a lot of time, actually. It was just like a few weeks. She realized that he seemed to lack emotional availability. And she remembered that I had talked to her about the 4 types of men you want to avoid. And one of them is the emotionally unavailable. One is the trauma bonding, like emotional warrior. But then on the other end is the emotionally unavailable man. He dismissed her feelings constantly, seemed to not be able to be present and listen. So when they were together, it wasn't just a few phone calls here and there that he had to take, but he just seemed so preoccupied with what was going on outside around him. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever like been up close and personal and met a politician who's running for office. It almost has that feeling of like they're coming up to you, shaking your hand, saying hi, but they're really seeing right through you because they're looking at the whole landscape. They're looking for that photo op or that opportunity to really like do something that's going to make them look good as a candidate. So that was kind of how she felt. It was like he wasn't really present. He was looking right through her. So things fizzled out. What we came to conclude is that he kind of was in a space where he wanted to be courted by her. He thought very highly of himself, which I'm not opposed to. Look, I think everybody should work on their self-esteem and feel good about themselves and understand the value that they bring. But I think what's really attractive is having a bit of humility with that. But she felt like he didn't have an ounce of humility. Okay. Now, contrast that with another man that she met several months later. He didn't have the flashiest lifestyle. He wasn't somebody that, when, he had a okay car, but it wasn't one of these exotic cars. It wasn't like every time he came in, all eyes were on him. He was a solid person, a stable person, but he wasn't that flashy type that attracted tons and tons of attention based on his money, status, or whatever. However, he was kind, he was present, he was emotionally grounded. He knew himself and he was confident in himself and who he was. He made her feel seen and validated, which also boosted her confidence in their interactions, and she was able to reciprocate and do the same for him. So it was a lesson as we talked through this, because as she was telling me, I was like, girl, you hear all of this debate about high value, this and this. And the first guy would be the one that, by all of these outside definitions, hit the markers of high value. But the second guy, which she actually ended up, they ended up being together, got engaged, and so forth. He was a true man of value. He was a true man of he was a truly holistic top tier man. And so he was able to provide all of the things that we talk about as being important in a healthy relationship, right? So I want us to keep that story in mind. So, what is the debate that's going on currently, right? Let's break it down. Social media is very influential, right? Even if we disagree with a lot of what is said, it tends to drive a lot of the discussion, which therefore drives a lot of people's ideas about how things should be. Now, this is really the case when a person doesn't have experience with the thing. So, if there's a woman who didn't really see healthy relationships or didn't experience them herself, she will be influenced a lot of times by social media. So when people are saying this is what kind of man you should look for, this is what your relationship what should look like, this is what high value is, then that can really influence. So all of that is to say that social media can be very, very influential, and it tends to paint a high value man, and the category or classification that people are using now is top tier. So not only is he high value, he's the toppest of tier, right? Is this is someone who's wealthy, powerful, or has a certain look, almost like a Hollywood, your leading male heartthrob, right? The people or that, women are lining up to just be groupies for, right? That this is what the top tier man is. And of course, there are things externally that attract attention. And it's the same for women, right? Your outer appearance tends to be something that draws people to you. But for us to say that that is the end all and be all of a high value, top tier person, I think we're really selling ourselves short. But this is what social media is pushing. And it's making us focus so much on the outside and on transactions. Transactional relationships have become almost like so accepted now, where it's like your currency as a woman is supposed to be your beauty or your youth or whatever, and your currency as a man is supposed to be your status and your wealth. And so people are in a space where they're talking about trading one for the other. And what gets lost is who is the person internally outside of all of that. All right. So obviously, you can tell I have issues with how we're painting top tier. I think we need to totally revamp it and talk about it in terms of some key qualities that I'm going to go over now. So if you don't have these qualities, I don't think you should be considered a top tier man. And so when we decide, when we allow women especially to really define and dig deeper into these definitions, I think that will boost women's self-esteem, because there are a lot of women now who are being told that they don't fit anywhere in the relationship market, the dating market. They're too this, they're too that, they're too old, they're too broke, they're too you know, too much of something in terms of their appearance. And that is hurting a lot of women's self-esteem. Okay? And I don't think that's ever a good thing, because when you don't work on your self-esteem, you show up in a way that doesn't attract other healthy people to you. All right. So let's talk about what truly makes a man top tier. Number one, character. I don't know how we got away from this, but character is key. All right. This is a person who has integrity, who does what's right, not just for the accolades or for the attention or outside validation, but they do what's right even when no one's looking. This is a person who is reliable. Their words match their actions. They are honest, and they treat other people with respect. So I've heard a lot of women talk about they want to see, oh, I want to see how he treats his mother. I say, you want to see how he treats someone he doesn't know, that he's not attached to, he's not beholden to in any way. Let's just see what kind of person this is. How do you speak to the servers at a restaurant, or people waiting on you, or just an everyday person that you encounter? That is what's going to help shed light on a person's character. And that reliability part is really, really important too. Like, reliability is, can you count on this person? Do their actions support all of the things that they're saying? Because a lot of people can say some great words, but then their actions are really trash. Their actions don't match it. The second thing is self awareness. A part of emotional intelligence. So I think it's important, like emotional intelligence, I think we say that a lot, and we understand that it's really being learning to be in touch with your emotions, also being in tune with and being able to observe and perceive other people's emotions. But a big part of that is self awareness, right? So you have to know yourself. I mean, as much as we all would want to have great self esteem, we all have our sides or parts to us. We all have strengths and weaknesses. And a healthy person is okay with all of that. A healthy person understands their weaknesses. Like, look, you don't have to ask me what my three weaknesses are. I can give you a whole list, right? I can tell you how sometimes I get blinded by emotion. Sometimes I can be impulsive and not want to like hear the downsides of things. How sometimes I can get into almost like a toxic positivity, um, where I just want to see the bright side of things. Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you all everything, but believe me, I am aware of my flaws and my weaknesses, and I'm also open to other people's observations, because we all have blind spots, right? So that's a level of self awareness that I've tried to be open to for myself. And I find it really attractive, whether I'm building friendships or any kind of work relationships, and, you know, meeting my husband, and our relationship is self awareness. It's very attractive, and it can be a big part of sustaining a healthy relationship. Okay. Um, Self awareness is also a big part of accountability. So you really can't ask or expect a person to be accountable if they're not self aware. So if you feel like somebody has made a mistake and you're looking for an apology from them or whatever, acknowledgement, if they just lack the awareness that they've done something, or that they may have done something that negatively impacted another person, if they lack that self awareness, they cannot get to the accountability. So that's a big part of it. Being in touch with emotions, understanding your emotions, being able to observe and perceive other people's emotions, and to be able to communicate. So it's not just like, okay, I see your emotions or I know my emotions, but like being able to communicate in a way that's healthy, not just exploding, not placing blame, not, always deflecting or like trying not to take responsibility for your own feelings and just putting everything on everybody else, right? That's emotional intelligence. And also being able to show empathy. So, a lot of times when we just focus on the wealth, the status, the appearance, those people get so much attention that even if they're not like flat out narcissists, they may, and I've seen this with men and women, when you get attention for so much of what's external, the outer things, right? The surface things, the level of attention that a person gets from that can make it hard to ground themselves and to see their flaws and to have a more humble view of themselves, right? It can make it hard for them, quite simply, to tame their ego. So it's hard for people like that to have empathy, right? If they're used to everybody chasing them, giving them accolades, having a lot of yes people around them because they want something from them, those people will have a hard time really having to face situations or things, discomforts that make them look self reflect. A lot of times, our self awareness and our ability to look at ourselves comes from hitting our heads and being in situations where we really had to step back and say, okay, well, what part did I play in this? But if we're always protected from that, we tend to grow a big ego. And I don't know about you, but like, yeah, healthy self esteem is one thing, but when you have an unchecked ego, it's going to be hard to have emotional intimacy with that kind of, when a person shows up with that level of ego, because they're usually not willing to be vulnerable enough to connect with you. And they may see your vulnerability as a weakness or something to exploit, right? So, ladies, listen to me. While you may be attracted to the confidence and the swag of someone with an outsized ego, believe me, there's going to be some downsides. And if you can't handle the smoke, please do not go too close to the fire, because that ego will definitely burn you. The fourth characteristic of a high value partner, is leadership qualities, right? A true leader in a relationship is someone who inspires trust through their willingness to have empathy and be present and connect with you and to be reliable. This is a person who is willing to take accountability and that doesn't let pride get in the way of like connecting with you and attending to what you need. But a man who has good leadership qualities, this is a man that also expects respect. I always say we all have our different love languages, but for the most part, men's love language is respect, especially a man who has respect for himself. So he's not expecting or accepting to be disrespectful. And so this is a man, though, who is willing to extend grace and respect and have empathy, but is willing to be a leader, but a leader who leads through inspiring, like getting you to trust and buy into the vision versus ruling with an iron fist, right? So basically, a high quality man is a man who leads in an emotionally intelligent way. Look at what they're teaching in business schools now. I always like to go back to business and investing and things like that. What they're teaching are the soft leadership skills, the emotionally intelligent leader, not the, draconian, like the one that just comes and just tells people and berates people and doesn't inspire people and belittles people. So, if you are developing a relationship or in a relationship with a man who feels like he's going to force you into following his lead, that is not a good leader. A good leader is patient. A good leader is kind. A good leader figures out how to communicate the vision to you. A good leader figures out is open to hearing your feedback about the vision, right? These are all qualities of a good leader. And good leaders, like I said, ladies, they want to be respected as well and shown respect. So, those are four qualities that are key. And when I work with women in either my group coaching or one on one coaching, we really dig into what they expect out of a man, either if they're looking for a relationship or currently in one. And where did those expectations come from, right? Some of us have these ideas, whether it's things that were modeled for us growing up, what we see on social media, and so forth. So let's talk about why true high value goes beyond wealth and appearances. So I'm not going to say that financial stability doesn't matter. I think that's an individual choice as far as what is the level of financial wealth that you're looking for in a potential partner. So, financial stability is necessary for all of us. And financial stability is also a sign of discipline, of ingenuity, of resourcefulness, and things like that. So, it does. But wealth and status alone don't sustain love. They really don't. And we've been seeing a lot of high profile examples of people being taught to be trophy wives and arm pieces and things like that, and how they have really felt unfulfilled. And in a lot of cases, or some cases, have actually been abused, taken advantage of, and all of these things. Okay, so we want to go beyond the surface. But would you rather have somebody who buys you expensive gifts but ignores your emotional needs, or someone who is able to prioritize your well being, feel like they can open up to you and is open to you opening up to them, and they're willing to grow together? Like, which one would you rather have? Think about it. I'm telling you, those material things will get real lonely or feel real empty when you need someone to confide in, when you need encouragement, when you need support, or when you want to give support and you want to give all of those things to your partner. So, how do you actually identify and attract a man that is truly top tier and high value? First is you want to evaluate actions and not just words. Remember when I was saying that reliability is when the words and the actions match? Stop looking for these text messages and all of these sweet nothings or gifts that are given, but then no follow up, right? What is the correlation or the connection between what he says and what he does? Okay. And also, the emotional availability part. How do you know somebody is emotionally available? Well, you know because they follow up. They don't just disappear. You don't just hear from them. And that's a whole other story, right? When you only hear from people at a certain time of night or certain hours of the day, and the rest of the time they're unavailable, or they go ghost for days at a time. They can't, everything is a short text message with these abbreviations. Okay. The other thing is pay attention to how he handles challenges. We will all be challenged in life. And I think a lot of us suffer because of the ways that we avoid discomfort. So we're constantly trying to avoid pain and discomfort. And not to say we should run to pain and struggle and discomfort, but it's part of life and part of growth. So we are going to face challenges in life, all of us, from the richest to the poorest, from, all walks of life. So how does this man that you're interested in, how does he respond to stress? How does he handle disagreements? How does he communicate a difference in opinion? Does he always shut down? Does he let you know, hey, I need some space? Um, does he take care of himself? Does he, not only women need self care, men do as well. So, how does he handle stress? How does he understand how to take care of himself? Disagreements, communications, and so forth. So these are life's challenges, right? We're always going to be facing life's challenges, and we all have to. That's a life skill that it doesn't mean that everybody knows it, has those skills. A lot of people didn't learn it, but being willing to work on those skills is key. And the other thing is to reflect on your own growth. I truly believe you attract what you are or what you are becoming. And it's not only that's not all you attract, right? Sometimes you attract people that you wouldn't want to entertain, but that's the key. Who are you entertaining? But you also want to reflect on you. Are you willing to become the kind of person that person that you want would be interested in? All right? High value people having those characteristics that I described earlier, they attract each other. When you focus on cultivating your own emotional intelligence, your own boundaries, your own self-respect, you are going to weed out the people that just would not fit the bill. And I think this is reflected even in our language. Like I do like to watch a lot of these different dating shows and things like that. I study like how are people engaging in this current atmosphere. And one thing I notice is like when you ask people what are their what do you call them, red flags or non-negotiables, things that they just are not going to tolerate. And they're like, well, if a person doesn't have teeth or they don't have hygiene or they're homeless, and it's just like, okay, you have to elevate your standards. Like, I think there should be a minimal standard that doesn't even have to be spoken of, right? So I would not list hygiene as a requirement because I think that's a given. And the way that I carry myself, I think that would be a given, right? So I think it's important to look at your own self growth and reflect on that and look at the language that you use. Stop using the lowest level language to attract the highest level qualities. Okay? Stop using the lowest level language to attract the highest level qualities. All right? And a lot of it is very energetic. The energy that you bring to the table matters. There's another debate of what do you bring to the table? And for women, I say it's your feminine energy. It's how grounded you are. It's you working on your confidence and your self-esteem. It's you being the best you can be. It's you working on your level of communication and emotional intelligence and your ability to self-reflect. Like those are all high frequency, high energy qualities. So once you are able to be in that space, that's who you are quite naturally going to attract. And then you're going to repel all of these other types of qualities that you don't want. All right. So I do have two questions that were sent to me. And just by the way, I love that you all are sending me questions. I would love to get some of you on here to do some real coaching, hot seat coaching. And I'm going to be gentle with you, right? But just coaching around where you're feeling stuck, either in your relationship or your self growth journey, patterns that have not served you so well. So you can also send me a DM, not just with your questions, but also with your interest in being coached by me here on one of the episodes. All right. So, question number one is, how do you know if a man is truly self aware or just pretending? I love that question. You know why? Because there are a lot of terms that are thrown around now. And so I think, yeah, there are people that are going to talk the talk, but not necessarily walk the walk. So self aware men don't just talk about their flaws, they actively work on them. Sometimes they don't even need to say it, right? What's understood does not even always have to be spoken. So look for humility and a willingness to listen, to grow, and to walk the walk. It doesn't have to be a lot of talk. And quite frankly, there are a lot of men who don't do a lot of talking. They're going to show you through their actions. And that's how you know if someone is truly self aware. Go beyond the words and look at the actions. All right, question number two. The next question is, can someone grow into becoming high value over time? Absolutely. Growth for all of us, right? If I just even look back at myself, 5 years from now, my mindset, how I view things, how I move, I have grown. And I hope that 5 years from now, when I look back, I'll see how much I grew, even how much my platform and how I, serve my audience. I hope that it grows. So growth is definitely a lifelong process. The key is the mindset and the commitment to personal development. Is personal development something that is valued by this person? If they think they have it all, again, that outsized ego, or they've gotten so much validation for the superficial surface things that they're not interested at looking within. And I've seen this with a lot of both men and women. And with women, what I find is when so much emphasis has been placed solely on their appearance or their sex appeal or whatever, they hit a stage and an age where they completely crash because they never developed any other aspects of their themselves and their attractiveness as a human being. And the same with men. If their status changes or they hit a hard a hard patch, um, it can feel like they're going downhill because that was all that they staked their value on. So it's that mindset, that growth mindset, and that commitment to personal development that is really the key. But certainly, two people can grow and high value within themselves. I consider that to be the case for me. We all grow more and more into our value, but it takes a commitment to that. I want to know what you think about all of these titles: high value, top tier, alpha male, right? There's so many titles that we put on it, but I want to know, what do you think is beneath the surface? I want you to really understand that what makes a person, or a man in particular, high value are traits that a lot of times we overlook. I had a matchmaker on my show, and she talked about going to medical conferences, engineering conferences, tech conferences, and meeting people that were maybe a little more introverted. And those would be part of her network. These were high value men in so many respects that she connected with other women that were part of her matchmaking network. So, if this episode and this topic resonated with you, make sure you share this episode in the show with a friend. Leave us a review. It really does help. And don't forget, you can learn more about my inner circle community, how you can be coached by me, the Boundaries to Bliss inner circle community. We have a thriving community of women who are on this growth journey, not just in terms of relationships, but most importantly, the relationship with themselves, really tapping into their feminine energy, having a healthy sense of self, and reaping the rewards of all that come with that. So make sure you look at the show notes. And I had the t shirts that came out, the Damsel Me Please. And for Black Friday, which is coming up in a few days, you can also get the Damsel Me Please journal. Remember, you deserve a healthy, fulfilling relationship, but it starts with your relationship with yourself. I'll see you in the next episode. I'm Dr. Nicole.